Thank you, Current Chairman. Vice Chairman, immediate past leader, members of the CEC, members of Parliament, members of the Regional Democratic Councils and municipalities, delegates, invitees. Let me repeat the welcome of the Chairman to this first General Council meeting for 2016, the year of national renaissance. And in welcoming you, I warn you that the local government elections are just 41 days away. So every day must count. 40 days and 40 nights. We have work to do. Comrades, we have this year the 59th year of our party's existence entered into what I would call the era of communitarianism. That is a simple word because we're all familiar with it. We all belong to communities and we're looking at community Arianism, if you want to call it that. What does it mean? When our government began its work in May last year, I established something called a Ministry of Communities. Some people pretended not to know what a community was. But we all know about community high school. We all know about community policing. We all know about community centers. And we all belong to something called the Caribbean community. All I'm trying to say is that communitarianism is part of our being, it's part of our philosophy. And what we intend to do in 41 days from now is show Guyana that we can build strong communities. You've heard me say from this podium before, where do correct ideas come from? Those words are a quotation, they're the title of an article by an Asian philosopher who nobody quotes anymore nowadays, called Mao Zedong. He wrote an essay in May 1963. Where do correct ideas come from? And this marks the difference between the People's National Congress, a forward-looking party, and persons who have sprung up on the political scene like jumpy umbrellas. But we are the ones with the experience, because the answer to the question, where do correct ideas come from, is that they come from social practice. They come from our engagement with the people. They come from our involvement in the regions. They come from our concern with communities. And some of you may not have noticed, but on the 7th of October last year, the President of Guyana signed an order declaring that day, the 7th of November, to be the National Day of Villages. It's the first time it has happened that you have a president who is declaring a day to be observed every year as the National Day of Villages. Why? Because villages are the cradles of Guyanese society, the cradles of democracy. And if we are to understand what will take place 41 days from now, we have to understand where we came from. So, communitarianism, emphasizing the responsibilities we have to build up communities. It emphasizes the role of the individual in his family, which is the basic community. It It emphasizes the role of the family and the household within that community. So when we speak about local government, we're not just speaking about another aspect of running the country. We're speaking of the most important, the most fundamental aspect about running the country. You know, I link this spirit of community with the spirit of democracy, and of course with what we'll be celebrating on the 26th of May, independence from Great Britain. Many of us in this room today grew up in a place called British Guyana. It is difficult to explain what British Guyana was like. It certainly was not a golden place, golden age. It was not an era that many of us would like to repeat or remember. Colonialism meant a denial of development, a denial of democracy, a denial of civil rights. As I told you before, on the 26th of May 1966, this country had hardly changed. Truly enough, we got a new name, and eventually we got new coins, new stamps. But on the 26th of May, the Commissioner of Police was still a Britisher, still a foreigner. The Chief of Staff of the GDF was still a foreigner. The Governor of the Bank of Guyana was still a foreigner. The Governor General of the country was a foreigner. The Vice Chancellor of the University of Guyana was a foreigner. The bishops of the Roman Church and the Anglican Church were foreigners, although the Anglican bishop quickly became a Guyanese citizen. But he knew where he was born. The people who ran the sugar industry, bauxite industry, the banks were all foreigners. So in a way, Guyanese didn't control much on the 26th of May 1966. And because we did not control much, we were poor. We were denied certain basic rights. There were places which none of you in this room could have entered, except to the servants' entrance, the Georgetown Club, the GCC. You couldn't go into those places. But after we got into power, after we got into government, things started to change. And when I look back at independence, I say 4 words. Thank God for the PNC. Because it is only when the PNC entered office that we had a government that cared for the ordinary people, that we built schools at Anna Regina in New Amsterdam, and Bladen Hall, and Wismar, multilateral schools, that we built the University of Guyana campus at Turkine. When I first started going to UG, I was in the same classroom I left the previous year as a QC student. It was the PNC really built Turkine campus to give this country a university. We built the airport at Timeri. You wouldn't have liked to see the airport that we inherited from the PPP. We built the highways. I don't know how all these gold miners would have been going into the hinterland were it not for the Soesdijk-Linden highway. Now they're mashing it up. They don't know who built it. We built the bridges in Kanji and Demerara River. So it was only with the entry of the PNC into office that we had the power to change this country and to put the prospect of a good life before the people of this country for the first time in their existence. What I'm talking about, comrades, is that you cannot bring about change without acquiring power. You cannot transform your communities without power. And this is what local government system is about. And we've seen it at close range over the last 23 years. We've seen how the PPP superized our municipalities. You know what superization is? You don't know what superization is? Look at the difference between Georgetown on the Carl Suber and Georgetown today. And the difference is, one existed when the PPP had power, and the other existed when the APNU, AFC had power. If we were still in the opposition, the place was still smelling stink. If we were still in the opposition, Zika could have come and catch us. Ebola, you don't know what's going on. Dengue, chikungunya. But as soon as we got into office, we started to care for the people's well-being. And that is exactly what is at stake on the 18th of March. Whether we are going to capture power in all of the municipalities and as many of the neighborhoods as possible in order to give the people a good life. That is what it is all about. It's all about a good life. If we remain in the opposition, some Naman Bitiko will come along, some Ganga Prasad will come along and try to disrupt democracy, because the PPP was never interested in local democracy. The PPP was interested in uprooting elected councils and implanting their own appointees. It was the PNC which first tackled the local government system. Those of you like me grew up in rural areas would know that the districts, we didn't have regions then, we had something called districts. The districts were run by district commissioners who were appointees of the governor. They were not responsible to the people in those districts. They were appointed by the governor. And it was the PNC which replaced that old system with the regional system. For the first time, we had regional democratic councils which were elected by the people who lived in the regions. So we brought local democracy to this country. We introduced the changes. And over the decades, the last decades in particular, we continue to struggle to ensure that local democracy was established. Local democracy is essential. It is not optional, it's obligatory if we are to improve our living and working conditions, if we are to improve social and cultural life, if we are to improve safety, law and order in our communities, if we are to ensure that our children go to school, improve education, improve the chances for employment, for enterprise, if we are to improve sanitation and hygiene, the management and disposal of solid waste, the eradication of mosquitoes which bring dengue and chikungunya and malaria and Zika, that four-letter word, into our communities. Why? Because we live there. We live in the houses, we know where the roofs are leaking. No minister can sit down in 4th Street, Kingston, or wherever, and tell you what suite of furniture you must buy, how much gasoline you must get, how much paper you must use. That is what Norman used to do, that's what Granger used to do, that Clinton used to do. But what we have now is a situation where we will select the people who will run our own municipalities and councils. And let me say this, that if you don't perform, in 3 years' time, there will be elections again. As long as there is David Granger as president, there are going to be elections every 3 years. So don't feel you got to hold on till you catch your stride. If you don't perform, you have to go on the street and face the people. No more 21 years. You're going to have regular democratic elections in accordance with the Constitution. There's a big difference, comrades, between the PPP and the PNC. It is the PNC which has been in the forefront of democratic change. We're the ones under our second leader, Comrade Hugh Desmond Hoyt. He set up a commission, we participated in a commission for local government reform. And this ended up in a set of recommendations, eventually legislation. We're the ones who went into the National Assembly, special select committees, and in the legislative chamber itself to pass laws to bring about local government reform. We were the ones who led the call for local government elections to be held on the 1st of August, or by the 1st of August 2014. When did this not happen? We were the ones who went in the street for nearly 4 months, picketing Donald Ramatar, calling for him to set a date for local government elections. And once we got into office, we were the ones who ensured that the date was set for local government elections. So we are committed to local democracy because this is a necessity. People need local democracy to be able to sit in their communities and decide how those communities will be administered. Thank you, PNC. Thank you. We have brought the PPPC rampage to an end. We have called a halt to the erosion of the authority of elected councils. We brought an end to the erasure of democracy, Subarization of our beautiful city. You can now smell the difference. You can see the difference. Comrades, what the PNC did for Guyana in 1966 to bring democracy and development to our country, we are going to do in 2016 to bring democracy and development to our communities. At our last Central Executive Committee, we agreed that the local government campaign will start on the 1st of February. So we are already 5 days into our campaign. But to tell the truth, we're 3 years into the campaign, because the PNC, as usual, was ahead of the game. And in 2013, the PNC did start its campaign. who for left Ghana already, who for stay better hang on, and we were holding on. We didn't care who was with us. We were committed 3 years ago. We held rallies, you know that, in Golden Grove and New Amsterdam, to make sure that the people understood and were sensitized about local government elections. There's no excuse of people saying they don't know. We knew. We held seminars and symposia. We visited communities and held rallies. And we now have to deliver in 40 days what we've been talking about in the National Assembly, in this General Council, and in the Central Executive Committee in Congress. We have flyers, we have pamphlets. We've picketed, we've protested. And this is the moment of truth, that we must now all go forward. Every one of us, every minister, every chairman, vice chairman, every RDC, every NDC must now go forward and make sure that democratic governance is delivered into every municipality and neighborhood, and that the people that we want to govern these communities are elected to office to do so. Comrades, the local government system is very important to all of us. Why? We have had this system for over 160 years. We are the leaders of local government in the Caribbean. People used to come from Jamaica and Barbados to study the Guyanese local government system. When I see John Adams, I don't know if he's here, bridge problems. But every time I go to the Namsel, I say, what about the birthplace of James McFarlane Curry, the father of local government? There's a big empty lot there. I told him if he clean it up and come and lay a wreath. But James McFarlane Curry, 100 years ago, was blazing the trail of local government, local democracy. Because local government was the cradle, it was the crucible. It was the schoolhouse for people who wanted to get involved in governance and government at a higher level. You know, sometimes there are people in our party, they're very ambitious. They want to start as ministers. You know, they don't want to do any apprenticeship. They don't want to learn the ropes. They want to start as ministers. They want to go in the National Assembly. I said, but have you ever run a neighborhood? Have you ever run a cricket club? Have you ever run anything? They never run anything, but they feel they're entitled. And now they're popping up like jumpy umbrella all around. So what these people think they're doing? All of them forming all sorts of groups. Heritage group, legacy group, bigger group, smaller group, middle group. To run what? Some of them have failed. And what they want to do, fail again? They want to mislead the people? Let me tell you this, comrades. Solidarity is at the basis of election victory. I told the people from one community and another community that we mustn't tinker and tamper with the electoral system. People died for PR in this country. People struggled for PR, fought for PR. PR means exactly what it says. You get 50% of the votes, you get 50% of the seats. We fought to overturn the first past the post system with good reason. If you read the Old New Nation from our founder leader, since 1961 he was writing, he says that cannot be fair. And the simple arithmetic which I've explained to some of you already is that if you have one community with 100 voters, and if the 5 parties can't agree among themselves, and all the 5 parties decide to compete against one another, 4 parties can get 19 votes each. 1 party get 24 votes and win. So the 24 votes will dominate the 76 votes. Comrades, you can't close your eyes with local government elections. Make them gone. You have to understand how the system works. And this is not the time for people who feel they belong to the, or adhere to, or support the PNC or the APN to divide in the face of the enemy. This is not the time for big and small. This is the time for our coalition to go forward as a unit. We don't got time with divisionism. I have time with solidarity. And we must look carefully at the divisionists who are trying to break up fragments of your party. Not to advance the national agenda, to advance the private agenda, the personal agenda. They don't get up and say we will eradicate mosquitoes or we'll solve the garbage problem. Put me, I'm better than everybody else. It's all about me. So comrades, remember the arithmetic. If you want, you can split up in 5 groups. Next thing you'll see is a stranger who nobody wanted to start with, getting 24 votes and taking the seat, which is 76 residents deserve to have, but they can't agree. They're not on terms. They don't talk to one another. So my message to you, comrades, is that this matter has been discussed at Congress, at General Council, and Central Committee. We are a disciplined party. We have taken into consideration the views of our members in all of the regions, and we have decided on a course of action that our party, as a member of the APNU partnership, and our partnership as a member of the APNU plus AFC coalition, will go into the elections as a unity. We're not supporting fragments, bits and pieces. We are going in as a unity. So, my brothers and sisters, we have 40 days to get our act together. If we do not behave and act as a unity, we're going to end up with 71 little subas. The clones of subas, people who get in there and then start listening to voices from Rob Street or whatever street. Instead of listening to the voices of the people, they'll be taking instructions from their managers, the manipulators. So don't believe people who come unto thee and said, Lord, Lord. when in fact they are ravenous beasts. One person there tried to control a party group in Brooklyn. They rejected him, jump over to the PPP, rejected him, jump over to the AFC, rejected him, jump over to the PNCR. Now we jump. Keep on jumping, grasshopper. But we have 59 years of solidarity behind us. So, my brothers and sisters, comrades, the local government elections that are upon us are probably the most important political event to have occurred since independence, because it is putting power into the hands of the ordinary communities, real power. And this time you have a government which is going to work with the municipalities and the neighborhoods to make sure that our agenda serves the people. This is not an event for people to play with the emotions of residents. Every community has problems. I've been around, you've seen them. Solid waste and security, lights, education, jobs. And we are the ones who have a serious agenda to go into those communities, to engage the people. 207,000 people came out in support of the coalition. They didn't support the jumpy umbrellas. They didn't support the fly-by-night people. You know, they supported a party that they trusted, a coalition which was committed to delivering a high quality of governance and giving them a good life. So this is what I mean by communitarianism, that the community now is central. Let us see community centers, community policing. Let us see clean, safe communities where our children are happy playing, free from mosquitoes, free from criminals, free from poverty, free from garbage, free from sewer, free from norm and really free communities. So I cannot overemphasize the importance of the exercise that we're going into. The saying is in America, you know, all politics is local. And better believe it. If you want good communities, healthy communities, safe communities, put it into this safe hands that you can trust. Not a snake oil salesman and a used car salesman. Safe hands of a trusted party, the People's National Congress, which for 59 years had never broken faith in the working people and the villages of this country. So my brothers and sisters, this is my simple message to you. Guyana looks forward to building strong families, strong communities, and that is how we will have a strong country. I have complete faith in the ability of our citizens to make the correct choices. But each one of us now must go back to our regions and our groups and inform, instruct, educate, teach people, especially young people who never voted before in their lives. Some of them may be dazzled by the man with the suit and the tie, looking smart. Some of them may be baffled by some top man or some, couture. But trust what you know, and you know the PNCR. I thank you very much.